Have you ever felt like your avoidant partner is constantly testing you? Why do they pull away just when everything seems perfect, like love itself has turned into an exam you never agreed to take? When you're in a relationship with an avoidant partner, that's exactly how it feels. One day they're full of love, connected and close. The next day they're distant, quiet and unreachable. You replay every conversation in your mind, trying to figure out what changed, but it's not about what you said, it's about what they felt. Avoidant partners don't test you to confuse you. They do it because feeling safe has never been simple for them. When closeness starts to grow, their mind and heart see it as a threat. Intimacy feels like losing control, like being swallowed by someone else's emotions. That's why instead of leaning in, they pull back, just to see how you react. Sometimes they go silent after a deep conversation. Sometimes they act indifferent after a loving weekend together. Sometimes they pick a small fight out of nowhere. It's not random, it's data. Every reaction you give answers an internal question for them. Can I be close to you and still feel safe? Avoidant partners are always in testing mode because deep down love feels like a risk they're not sure they can survive again. Their tests aren't about punishment, they're about prediction. They're measuring whether closeness will give them comfort or take away their freedom. In this video, we're going to explore why your avoidant partner is caught in this constant cycle of testing, how it shows up, what it really means, and how understanding it can help you stop taking their distance personally. Because once you understand the reason behind their behavior, you stop reacting, and that's where real connection begins. Now let's take a look at the reasons why they stay in testing mode. The first reason why an avoidant partner stays in testing mode inside a relationship is their fear of emotional exposure. This fear isn't created by the relationship, it's reactivated by it. For most avoidants, emotional closeness wasn't safe when they were young. They learned that expressing feelings often led to rejection, judgment, or emotional neglect, so they grew up believing that being open equals being unsafe. When intimacy deepens in a relationship, when conversations get real or connection feels emotionally charged, their old survival system wakes up. Their brain quietly says, "You're being seen again, be careful." And that's when testing begins. They might pull back a little. They reply slower. Their warmth turns into politeness. It's not because they've lost interest, it's because their nervous system has switched into protection mode. To them, emotional exposure feels like standing under bright light without armor. They retreat to see if they can still feel in control. This is the essence of their testing. If I take a step back, will you still be there, or will you leave me too? They aren't testing your loyalty as much as they're testing whether the relationship can survive without them feeling engulfed. Psychologically, this comes from what attachment theory calls an avoidant attachment system. Their amygdala, the brain's fear center, overreacts to emotional closeness. The prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and emotional regulation, quiets down, so they protect themselves by creating emotional distance. It's their way of staying safe. Your best response: don't chase. Don't question every silence. Stay calm, consistent and grounded. When you don't react with panic, their nervous system slowly learns that closeness doesn't always mean danger. That calmness gives them a new experience. Safety without pressure. And here's the paradox: when they realize you're not chasing, another instinct rises, the need to reclaim their independence, to prove they're still in control. That's when the next layer of testing begins, not about safety anymore but about freedom. The second major reason an avoidant partner stays in testing mode within a relationship is their deep need to reclaim independence. It's not just a habit, it's an emotional reaction, shaped by an old conditioning that whispers, "If I get too close to someone, I'll lose control over myself." They act this way because deep down their nervous system perceives intimacy as a threat to freedom. In their past, closeness and control were the same thing. Maybe their parents made decisions for them, dismissed their opinions, or used emotional pressure. "If you don't do this, I'll be disappointed in you." So they learned early that love comes with conditions, that being loved means losing space and voice. As they grew up, that belief solidified into a quiet rule: to stay safe, I must stay distant. Inside a relationship, as soon as they start to feel closeness, shared routines, emotional expectations, or your deep involvement, they begin to feel suffocated. That's when the testing starts. They might suddenly take space, ignore messages, or say something vague like, "I just need some time." What they're really doing is observing, if I step back a little, do I still get to keep my space? For them this test is a self-check. Am I still in control, or am I being pulled into someone else's world again? They do this because their mind associates loss of control with loss of identity. Your reaction in these moments matters more than you think. If you chase them, explain yourself endlessly, or try to fix the distance, you unintentionally confirm their old fear. See, relationships consume me. But if you remain calm, grounded, and focused on your own rhythm, your work, your peace, your life, you give them a completely new experience. They begin to feel that love can exist with freedom, not against it. And when they feel that, their defense system slowly relaxes. They start coming closer again, not because you pulled them, but because it feels safe to move toward you on their own terms. Yet the moment they feel safe in that closeness, another challenge quietly surfaces, a fear that this emotional connection might make them dependent. And that leads to the next reason they stay in testing mode. The third reason an avoidant partner stays in testing mode inside a relationship is their deep fear of emotional dependence, the fear of needing someone too much. For them, attachment feels risky because dependence reminds them of a time when emotional need was met with disappointment, not care. In their early world, reaching out often meant rejection, judgment, or neglect, so they built a quiet promise within themselves: I will never rely on anyone again. It wasn't defiance, it was self-preservation. That's why, even when they love someone, there's a part of them that resists leaning in completely. Dependence feels like handing over control of their inner world, and control is what makes them feel safe. So they test the bond, often without realizing it. They pull back right when things start to feel emotionally steady, creating small doses of distance to check whether they can still function on their own. You'll see it in moments that seem confusing. They stop sharing what's really bothering them, downplay their emotions, or distract themselves with work or logic when things get too close. This is not because they don't care, it's because caring too much threatens their emotional independence. Psychologically, this comes from defensive self-sufficiency, a coping mechanism where the brain equates closeness with loss of safety. Their mind tells them, if I depend on you, you could disappoint me, and I can't survive that again. So they keep testing, by withdrawing, by becoming emotionally quiet, by waiting to see how you react. If you become anxious or start to demand closeness, their fear is confirmed. See, depending on someone always leads to pressure. But when you remain emotionally stable, not cold, not reactive, something shifts. Your steadiness becomes a new kind of safety, one they never knew existed. They slowly start to see that needing someone doesn't mean losing power, it can mean sharing it. They do all this because their heart wants connection, but their fear wants control. And until they learn that love can hold both, they'll keep testing. Yet once this realization begins to soften them, a new question emerges. If I stop testing and truly open up, will I still be loved for who I really am? And that question leads straight into the next reason, the fear of true vulnerability. The last reason an avoidant partner remains in testing mode within a relationship is their fear of true vulnerability. The fear of being emotionally exposed without any armor left. By this stage, they've already battled the fears of closeness, dependence, and losing freedom. But vulnerability asks for something even harder, being seen exactly as they are, without the mask, without control, without defense. For someone with an avoidant pattern, that's not just uncomfortable, it feels dangerous. They do this because in their emotional memory, openness has always carried a cost. When they were honest about their feelings, they were misunderstood. When they showed weakness, they were made to feel small. So now, as adults, their mind whispers, if you show everything, they'll leave. If you stay guarded, you'll survive. That's why they test even in moments that should feel safe. They'll share a small truth, just to see how you react. They might reveal a piece of their pain and then suddenly retreat, acting as if it meant nothing. It's not manipulation, it's self-protection. They're trying to measure whether the relationship can hold the full weight of their truth. Psychologically, this comes from a deep shame wound, a hidden belief that if someone sees their real self, they won't be loved. So they stay half available, half hidden, loving you, but never fully letting you love them. And this is where your reaction truly matters. If you push them to open up faster, they'll shut down harder. If you take their distance personally, it confirms their fear that honesty leads to pressure. But if you stay steady, calm, kind, and grounded, you quietly teach them something new, that vulnerability doesn't always end in pain. You don't need to chase them or fill the silence. Instead, let your emotional steadiness be the signal that it's safe to come back. Because when they finally realize they're accepted even in their raw, unguarded form, the testing begins to fade. Real vulnerability, once met with safety, no longer feels like exposure. It starts to feel like belonging, and for someone who's spent their life hiding behind emotional walls, that feeling is the closest thing to home. Being in a relationship with an avoidant partner can feel like walking a tightrope. One wrong move, and distance grows. But understanding their patterns isn't about changing them, it's about strengthening your own emotional boundaries and clarity. First, focus on your own stability. Ground yourself in your routines, your passions, and your emotional well-being. When you show that your happiness isn't entirely dependent on their reactions, you naturally reduce the tension that triggers their tests. Second, practice compassionate observation. Notice patterns without taking them personally. Recognize when they pull back, not as a rejection of you but as a reflection of their internal fears. This mindset shift protects your confidence and reduces reactive arguments. Third, communicate with intention. Keep your messages clear, calm, and consistent. Avoid chasing or over-explaining, which only confirms their old fears. Instead, show that closeness and independence can coexist in the relationship. Finally, embrace patience. Avoidant patterns take time to soften, and your steady presence is the safest bridge for real connection. Remember, growth isn't about forcing change in them, it's about creating a safe environment where both hearts can meet without fear. By practicing stability, observation, clear communication, and patience, you not only survive the tests, you transform them into opportunities for genuine intimacy. Relationships.